Erev Shabbat Shalom, the Shabbat before Rosh Chodesh, before the beginning of the month of Nisan, is always called Parshat Parah because we read the Torah portion about the Parah, about the red heifer, one of the great enigmas or paradoxes within the Jewish tradition. It is a ritual that existed in the temple in a way that enabled people who came in contact with the dead, came in contact with something that was impure, to return to the camp, to return to the temple, and to offer the Passover sacrifice. And it is one of the great mysteries of the Jewish tradition. In fact, King Solomon, who by tradition is the wisest of all men, states, let me try and understand it. It is ununderstandable. But our sages did something brilliant. With Parshat Parah, they paired it with a special portion of the prophets from the book of Ezekiel. And Ezekiel is a prophet, the sole prophet who prophesied outside of the land of Israel. He began as a young prophet here, was exiled, the destruction of the first temple, went off to Babylon. And there he yearned and envisioned a time when the Jewish people would return to their land. And he has powerful visions, the vision of the dry bones coming back to life, the vision of Judah and Israel uniting. And in this week's portion, he envisions Israel returning to their land in which God will sprinkle us with water, purify us, and take the heart of stone that is in our flesh, asher b'basarchem, lev ha'evan asher b'basarchem, natati lechem lev chadash. It will give us a new heart, a heart of flesh, a heart of caring. And it's amazing. The sages at the beginning of the Second Temple period, when the Jews come back, discuss perhaps Ezekiel's prophecies were about the rebuilt Second Temple, and they say, no, these prophecies will only be yet in the future when the Jewish people will return. And now, after 2,000 years of exile, we've returned. And we've returned, and all too often we're seeking to recreate a Judaism of the diaspora. But Ezekiel envisions a Judaism that's distinctly different, that's unique to Shivat Zion, to the return to Zion, as his older contemporary Jeremiah envisioned. Lo od yomru chai Hashem. It will no longer say, by God who brought the Jews out of the land of Egypt, but rather God who gathered the Jews from the northern lands and from all the lands in which they were scattered. And we won the lottery. We're living in a time when this is happening. And unfortunately, we're not yet there in which our heart is a heart of flesh and feeling and loving and caring. This week again, we saw in the media propagated by an Israeli Supreme Court ruling to accept different types of conversions. I don't want to get to the details. I want to stay at the big picture. And the big picture is that Jews were speaking again in ways that were not loving and caring about one another. And as a rabbi whose understanding of conversion is probably more similar, is not probably, is certainly more similar than those who I disagree with. But I know that I'm come with humility. Come with humility saying, I believe in my way. I don't know. I never know for certain. And I have that willingness to accept another person with love and respect and recognize those differences and celebrate those similarities. I think if we had more of that, we would come more towards Passover, the spirit of purification, renewal, and rebirth, which is in fact why our sages suggested that, believe it or not, we're 3 weeks before Passover. They enacted that the Shabbat before the month of Nisan, Passover is always the 14th of Nisan. Shabbat before the month of Nisan, we read Parshat Parah to remind us that there are things in Judaism we don't understand, but the way to treat one another is lasir et lev ha'evan, to remove the heart of stone and to place within us lev basar, a living, breathing heart that cares and that loves for one another and ultimately for the entire world. Shabbat Shalom.